So I guess to think about the pros of working with an agency, I mean, I started with an agency. I don't know if you did. Like, was one of your first clients an agency, or have you not really gotten into that game yet?
No, I mean, I've worked with agencies, but it wasn't how I started exactly.
Okay.
Maybe actually, now that I think about it, I started with a web design shop. So
Okay.
good,
Yeah. Yeah.
good point.
So
You're
I
you're totally
started
right.
with Market 8. Did you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
work
yeah,
with
yeah. I
Market
know
8? I
them.
think I actually told Eduardo from Market 8 to contact you at one point
I've been in
because
touch with him for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what happened there was, I was working full time at a startup. I quit my job once I landed a couple of clients, and one of the first clients was actually Market 8, which is like a B2B SaaS agency. They do design, copywriting, all that stuff. And so that is who I think is best suited to work with an agency. And I mean, the main reasons for that on my end, from my personal experience with Market 8, was it kind of felt like I still had a job, even though I didn't. So my arrangement was like on a retainer. And so I knew that every month I was going to work X amount of hours and I was going to get X dollars no matter what. Which is huge when you're just starting out because you're kind of worried about if you're actually going to get any clients and how steady they're actually going to be coming through your inbox. Um,
And
the
and
other
Josh, when
one,
you said, sorry, real quick, when you said like that's who it's best for, do you mean like people who are transitioning out of a full-time gig? Is that what you mean?
yeah, yeah, I think
Okay.
that's the best place to start. And obviously, like I said, pay on a steady basis, kind of like having a job, which is awesome. You can leverage their reputation. So if your agency that you're working with has already worked with a bunch of SaaS companies and they're trusted in the space, it doesn't matter that you're new because there's a good chance the client won't even know about you. So I guess that also leads into the other idea, which you don't have to close projects, which is awesome because when you're just starting out, sales calls are terrifying. You don't know how much you should ask for, if you're being too greedy, or if you're letting them get away with something by asking for the rates that you're asking for. So that whole sales process is taken out of it, and you can really just focus on your craft, which is important in the early days because like I don't think you have to be the best to make the most money in a space. Part of that really does come down to marketing and sales, but a certain amount of competency is definitely required. Um, I guess another thing that was nice for me, and I don't know if it's always this way because Market Eight's, I think they're the only agency I've really worked under, is they were super organized. So they had processes in place, templates, software working together, different teams working together, and I learned a lot from that whole experience. Just how to even think about landing pages and how to think about working with design and SEO and developers and stuff like that. So that those are some of the major pros for me. I don't know if there's anything you want to dig into there or add.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. On that last point in particular, like I think one thing that's really important is that, is the agency you're gonna sort of the ceiling, the agency you work with is gonna set like a floor and a ceiling on the quality of work you do. So if you're working
Mm-hmm.
with an agency that doesn't really have their stuff together and they don't have those processes and maybe they don't really get, copywriting or whatever it is, then that's going to, do the opposite, right? It's just going to kind of drag you
Exactly.
down.
That's true.
So that's, I think for me, I've recently not been working with agencies, but I am talking to a couple of agencies right now. And these are teams that like really know their stuff. They get marketing. They have, all these companies that they've produced pretty impressive results for. And so, that I think is a huge part of it because you're basically plugging into their team. And so if it's a good team, that's great for you. If it's not a good team, run the other way. Um,
100%.
and there was something else you mentioned that about like who agency relationships are good for. So you were talking about people who are just transitioning out of a traditional 9 to 5 or corporate gig or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think another audience that it could be really good for is like people who are just introverted in general. I know there are a lot of copywriters who are just naturally introverted. And if you really hate sales, you were talking about this earlier, is like if you're just still like learning how to write copy and getting the fundamentals down, that maybe you don't want to learn how to do sales and copywriting at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I do recommend getting good at sales and all of that, but you know, if you're introverted and you don't want to get on the phone with all of these different people, working with an agency, you know, maybe it's one or two people who you have a good relationship with, and maybe you don't have to meet all that many different people. Maybe you're just working almost one-on-one with someone and getting fed all of these projects. So could be a huge advantage there. I still encourage people to learn sales, even if they're introverted. But, you know, I think if I were more introverted than I am, that would probably be one of the things that I would look at.
Yeah. And I mean, it is worth noting though that if you are an introvert, you 100% can learn to sell. Like me in my daily life, very much an introvert. I do not seek out groups. I've got a few friends, and like I'm like your classic introvert. Stay in, read books, things like that. So, but once the sales call starts, I can turn it on for that 30 minutes. We can have a good conversation, and then, you know, the rest of my day isn't so great because I'm exhausted after a couple sales calls. But yeah, it can be
it's
done.
tiring. Yeah,
Yeah.
the emotional labor of it, I guess, meeting new people and having these like somewhat high stakes conversations. Not that they're necessarily really high stakes, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.